Hello chess friends and welcome to the round 3 of the World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. So instead of a joy division we get really a draw division now. We have now 3 draws from 3 games and of course this will be a tough match game between the two of them, and I think again we saw good preparement by Fabiano Caruana. He gets now really easily out of this middle game into a better end game. If he improves the end game, I think he can even win this match game, because Carlsen is not in good shape. I think here. Here Caruana found really a really better line. So again we had this Rossolimo attack by Caruana. So let's see now this game. In the first round, Caruana played a similar line, but now with some improvements. So we have here e4, c5, knight on f3, knight on c6, bishop to b5. This Rossolimo attack, g6, bishop takes on c6. And now d takes c6, d3, perfectly fine, meets with our idea to block out this light square bishop, as I said also in my video of the first round. Bishop to g7, and now we have a castle, queen to c7, which after e5 will simply support this e5 pawn, and with this idea is to play f5. And we have here now rook on e1 by Caruana and e5. And here I wanted to point to first a position from the common King's Indian. So this is maybe an orthodox line of the King's Indian, and you see we have here this very nice pawn structure, and of course it coordinates our attack here on the king side with h4, h5 and g5 ideas and stuff like that. We try to break through and of course try to attack the king. Let's see now this let's flip the board here a little bit for Carlsen. You see this f5 possibility here, although we have this light square bishop, and of course we want to create open lines for our bishops. It's really hard because this e5 is not supported as in the King's Indian with this d6 pawn. So this is not a firm pawn structure here in the center. So this f5 possibility, although it's always present, but it's really hard to accomplish that in the game. And basically what we have to do, we have to break here as white this firm central control of the c4, c5 and e5 pawn, and that's what Caruana does in this line. He found, I think, a better line. He played here the move a3, and of course with the preparation to play b4, and after maybe a trade of pawns, we will have then an open a file and semi-open a file. We can create some pressure on the a7 pawn here. So I think, as I said, this is a better line than the one in the first round that Fabiano chose against Magnus Carlsen. So Magnus had many troubles also with this line, and now he played knight on f6. He could have played here maybe knight on e7. But you see, if you are trying maybe to play the move f5, this knight from e7 would simply aiming on the same square. So if we accomplish maybe to play f5, and then after that again knight on f6, you see we would then really nice create some pressure here on the e4. So of course we want the knight to have it on f6. So of course this is a better continuation by Carlsen. He will first castle, and then maybe his idea, as I said, is to prepare the f5, but as I said, it's really hard to play it. So b4, we have now a really good decision by Carlsen. He plays here castling instead of c takes b4. So the problem is if b takes c5, you see the first thing that you have to notice is this well, static position now. Although we are pawn up, but it's not easy here to play c3 d4 because rook to d8 will follow, and in order to get a breakthrough here in the center, we have to weaken also this d3 pawn. So this is now a fixed position here. You see in this opposite side attacks, of course, if Carlsen prepares something like f5, it's natural that he will create his attack on the king side here on the f file, of course, and Caruana would then, of course, try an attack on the queen side here somehow with some pawn moves. Of course, with pawn moves you basically create the best attacking ideas, and you see with the c5 we have here sort of a fixed position, and of course this pawn on c5 can also be attacked, maybe with the move knight on d7, which leads now in a complicated situation. If white now simply gives up here again the c5, he didn't accomplish anything from this idea to take the c5 pawn. He would basically have to cover it with bishop to e3, but now this f5 move is possible. You see, we have here the bishop on e3 on a very weird square because we didn't play h3 before, and you see now we have even possibilities to play f4, which meets you see with our standard King's Indian idea, and now white doesn't have these ideas to somehow break through in the center. So we have possibilities to play here f4, maybe h6, g5, and then create this King's Indian attack similar to the King's Indian. So this will be our main idea, and if white plays now something like knight on g5, we can simply go again knight on f6 and play with the same idea to play f4, and again with h6 and then g5 create this really nice attack. And the problem in white's position is that he doesn't have the light square bishop anymore, and if you're familiar with the King's Indian, this light square bishop always create here this attack after and on h3, and in many King's Indian orthodox line it will be also sacrificed. So this is the main idea here. So I don't think this immediately b takes c5 is good. I hope you notice that the position on the queen side is a little bit fixed here. There's no clear line how to attack here and create some weaknesses here on the a, b, or maybe c file. So this is this was sort of Magnus's trick so far, but here Caruana didn't take the pawn, and he played simply the development. Very nice, very well prepared, as I said, knight from b to d2, and of course with maybe here immediate threats to play knight on b3, and then maybe take with the knight on c5, which leaves us then the flexibility to play maybe other pawn moves. So you see, this is a better line. And now let's see if Carlsen tries again maybe sort of an f5 outpost. So let's consider maybe the move knight on d7, which can maybe be met with here bishop to b2. And now if f5 comes, this is not something special. We can take simply e takes e5 after maybe g takes e5 in order to get here connected pawns in the center. White can simply play knight on c4 and attack this very weak pawn on e5, and this would be of course a problem. And as I said, you see, I think Caruana was very well prepared here for this line. Although white has this, black has this bishop pair, but in order to get free diagonals, free lines, it's not so easy to create here. I like this this first game by Carlsen much more, because he in this continuation castled queenside, and of course he managed to open some diagonals and some files. So here of course you see it was probably Caruana's preparation with this a3 and b4 idea. Very nice. So he found a really nice line in this Rossolimo attack. After knight from b to d2, here Carlsen played bishop to g4, and now we have a problem. After h3, challenging the bishop, Carlsen takes here, and after knight on f3, we have here now this c takes b4, a takes b4, and let's now evaluate the position a little bit. This is sort of a position that I always love to call it's unlosable for white, because you have to only watch this this coordination between your pawns and bishops. You see, we have here this is sort of a positional play. You see, we have here the pawn on the e5 square, and it's on a dark square. It's blocking out our bishop. And in a potential endgame, as I always love to say, if you just could imagine the position when we only would have maybe the bishops on the board and the kings and the pawns, this pawn would then be a problem, because it has to be supported, maybe moves as f6, but then you bring another pawn on the dark squares, which can be attacked then by your own dark square bishop. So from this positional point of view of the chess game, this is now a very good position for white. As I said, it's of course in this top grandmaster level, I don't think it's losable for Caruana here, so maybe he can also create here ideas to play bishop to b2 and attack this pawn, and after maybe f6, black create maybe some light square problems. So this is a very good preparation by Caruana, and we also saw in the second game he was also well prepared. So this is now another kind of a match here between the two of them, and Magnus, I think he has to struggle here to defend his title. So now we have a5 by Carlsen. He tries to simplify the position. He tries to get rid of this advanced pawn here on b4. Now we have b takes e5, rook takes on e5, and here Caruana played bishop to d2. Of course, Carlsen rook on a8. He wants to stay on this a file. Of course, if the rook trade happens here, so he wants to stay active with his rooks. Of course, rook on a6 is not a good move, maybe something like that, because he'll simply, after rook takes on a6, weaken your pawn structure. So what the other advantage that Caruana has here, maybe he has disconnected pawns. He has only one pawn island, meanwhile you see Carlsen has two. But also Magnus has maybe a potential in a potential endgame this advantage that he has this pawn on the b files here, and he can create maybe a distant pass pawn, which will maybe deflect then the king, but that's far away, of course, here in this game. So now it's not such a complex game. I think now there are not no more tactical ideas, not at least the complex one here present in this position. So I think this is now a drawish position, although white is slightly better. So we have here queen to b1, knight on d7. We have here now queen to b4, and here Carlsen played a rook from f to e8. You see, this rook from f to e8 is also well, you have to play something, but it's also a little bit here fixing here this e5 pawn. As I said, this e5 pawn is a problem, but of course maybe again with this idea to play f6 and then bring this bishop on the other diagonal, so this would really bring the bishop into the game. So Carlsen is improving the position of his pieces, so he has to do that in order to keep in the game. And now I think Caruana could have played maybe here the move queen to b2 and then bishop to c3. He played first the move bishop to c3, and now Carlsen played here b5. And well, maybe here, as I said, queen to b2 is sort of an attack here on this e5, and maybe with preparations knight from f to d2, and then try at least somehow maybe to open the position. So this position is a little bit static, so maybe there were preparations to somehow open the diagonals or the files. But here after rook, Caruana took the rook on a8, we have rook takes on a8, and now this move I don't like. It simply forces a trade of rooks. As I said, this is now favorable for Carlsen because he gets in a less complex game. And after trade of rooks, we have here, of course, bishop takes on a1, and now queen to a7, bishop on c3, and now we have a queen to a2, you see, by Carlsen now, and this was what I talked about. Now Carlsen managed to equalize the game. You see that I think Caruana has to improve maybe this stage of the game, this middle game till end game, in order to get a win against Magnus Carlsen. So he has a good preparation in the opening, but I think there's room for improvement here in this middle game. So here we have queen to b2, queen takes on b2, and now bishop on b2, and now we have a very static position. We're basically in an endgame, and here Carlsen of course played f6 in order to bring his bishop through other squares into the game. Now we have king on f1, of course the king has to play in an endgame. Now we have by Carlsen king on f7, king to e2, and now knight on c5, bishop to c3. It's very hard here for anyone to get some advantage. This is now a simply equal position, and of course these two guys know how to play the endgame. So of course this game ended in a draw. So let's see the continuation. We have here knight on e6, the preparations maybe to play c5 and then jump with the knight here on d4. So we have here g3, now bishop on f8, knight on d2, knight on g5, and now we have h4. So you see, kicking away the knight, but there is this problem. Now we have blocked all of our pawns on the dark squares, and as I said, you want to have your pawns on this opposite colored squares. So of course you want to keep your pawns on the light squares. So now Carlsen forced him a little bit here with this h5 move. Now we have again knight on e6 by Carlsen, and now we have knight on b3, preventing this knight on d4. So we have h5. You see, Carlsen keeps his pawns here on the king side on the light squares. Bishop on d2, bishop on d6, c3. Again, prophylactic move. Of course, we don't want the knight to jump in on a very active square, which could have maybe here connect three pawns. If we take with our pawn here on d4, then we could create maybe here on a situation 3 on 2 pawns, and this could be maybe an advance for black. So now Carlsen plays c5, bishop on e3, king on e7, and now king on d1. You see, they're the simple moves. No one wants to immediately create a pawn breakthrough, and as I said, this is an equal position, and of course it will lead into a draw. King on d7, we have king on c2, f5. Now Carlsen tries push somewhere. Now we have king on d1, and we have here now f takes e4, d takes e4, and now Carlsen gets here the situation 2 on 1, which could be dangerous. But here Caruana played knight on d2, knight on c5, and here Carlsen took away this knight. We have here bishop takes on c5, bishop takes on c5, and now king on e2. So as you see, now Carlsen has here this weak pawn. You see this Caruana's pawn here on e4 cannot be attacked by the bishop, of course, because it's on a like square. Carlsen has to worry here about this pawn, as I said, and possibilities are here maybe to play f4 and create here connected pawns in the center. So here Carlsen played king on c6, knight on f1, b4, c takes b4, bishop takes on b4, and now knight on e3. Now we want to cement our knight here on the square d5, which cannot be then attacked by the king or by the bishop. So after king on c5, we have f4 first by Caruana. E takes f4, e takes f4, g takes f4, pardon me, bishop on a5, and now Caruana finds a very nice motif, the drawish motif. He played here the move f5, g takes f5, knight takes on c4, king takes on c4, and pardon me, e takes f5. So it's a completely draw because black has here this wrong colored bishop. You see, it's we have here this light square, so of course it's not possible to promote this pawn with this bishop. So this is basic endgame idea. You see, you cannot promote this pawn with this dark square bishop, and the pawn goes promotes here on this h1 square, which is on a light square. So basically what you have to do as white to bring your king here on h1 and just play g1 h1 g1 h1, and it's a draw. So guys, as I said, I think there is improvement here possible for both of the players. We'll see tomorrow Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces, and I hope the game will get more dynamic. You see this two guys really, this is now a huge battle. I think Caruana found really the cure for Carlsen, and let's see how the continuation is gonna be, and I hope we get more dynamic games, at least in the middle game. So you can also watch all of my previous Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana videos, and you can also watch all of my King's Indian videos, which I explained in my chess channel, and you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks you for watching, and chess is the best, of course.